WWE has signed several high-profile former AEW stars so far in 2025, with the likes of Ricky Saints, Penta, Rey Fenix, Rusev, Aleister Black, and more making the jump from All Elite Wrestling to WWE. But with 2026 on the horizon, many are wondering which names from All Elite Wrestling will be next to jump from AEW to WWE. In this countdown video, we're going to let you know 5 names that could be set to join WWE from All Elite Wrestling in 2026. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And in this countdown video, we're going to be discussing which AEW stars could be on their way to WWE next year in 2026. As I mentioned in the intro of this countdown video, 2025 has been a big year for WWE when it comes to talent acquisition from their main competitor in All Elite Wrestling, with the likes of Ricky Saints, formerly known as Ricky Starks in AEW, Penta, formerly known as Penta El Zero Miedo in All Elite Wrestling, Rey Fenix, going by the same name in All Elite Wrestling, Rusev, known as Miro in All Elite Wrestling, Aleister Black, known as Malachi Black, and others making the jump from AEW to WWE when they were free and able to do so after being released or once their AEW contracts expired. And 2025... it's going to be a lot like 2026 in the sense of there's going to be wrestlers jumping from AEW to WWE and from WWE to AEW. So in this countdown video, we're going to discuss 5 names that could be on their way to WWE from All Elite Wrestling in 2026. Let's begin with Chris Jericho. This one, as time goes on, feels more and more nailed on, doesn't it? Y2J could be set to return to WWE for the first time since 2018. Jericho, of course, being the inaugural AEW World Champion, Le Champion, hasn't been seen on All Elite Wrestling programming since earlier this year, way earlier this year, around April of 2025. Now, in April, early April, at the AEW Dynasty pay-per-view, Chris Jericho lost the Ring of Honor World Championship to Bandito in a title versus mask match. On the following episode of AEW Dynamite, he disbanded the Learning Tree as Jericho blamed losing the Ring of Honor World title on both Big Bill and Brian Keith of the faction, before saying it's best that he leaves All Elite Wrestling for a while until Bill and Keith make a change. Seemingly, I guess they haven't yet been able to make said change because we haven't seen Jericho. Now, at the time, it was thought that Jericho's absence would be relatively short-lived, and it was just a case of him going on tour with Fozzy and he'd be back in a few weeks or in a month or so or something like that, and it wasn't too much to read into, but April's turned into May, and the spring's turned into the summer into the fall, and the fall into the winter, and we've still yet to see Chris Jericho back on AEW programming. So much so that Tony Khan keeps getting asked, what's the status of Chris Jericho? Chris Jericho keeps talking up a possible return to WWE. He's liking Instagram posts about a possible 2026 return. We then find out that WWE are even talking about a possible Chris Jericho return. Initially, it was said that WWE would be interested. Then it was said that WWE people within the company expected him to be back in WWE by early 2026. In addition to that, it was stated that the most likely return appearance for him could be at the Royal Rumble next year in January of 2026 in Saudi Arabia, which would be slightly poetic since his last WWE match took place at a Royal Rumble event, the greatest Royal Rumble, in 2018 in Saudi Arabia. In addition to that, a new report recently stated that WWE had even pitched Chris Jericho a possible return storyline and what would be a retirement storyline. Tony Khan recently, in an interview with Errol Hawani on the Errol Hawani Show in studio, was asked about Chris Jericho's status and if he was going to be coming back to All Elite Wrestling TV. Khan said, quote, "It's a very good question. Some of it comes down to just working out the dates." He then said about him possibly coming back, he said, "I hope so. I absolutely hope we'll get Chris back in. And a star like Chris Jericho, you negotiate a certain number of dates. Chris has always been really great about being one of those wrestlers in AEW that when he's in, he's all the way in. And if you think he's always really been a full-time part of the show. So Khan remained pretty non-committal when it comes to the possibility of Jericho returning to All Elite Wrestling. Now, a lot of people say actually this might be the best move for Jericho. Chris Jericho certainly at this point is well past his prime. There's no point really dressing that up. We've got to be realistic here. Jericho is 55 years of age, and towards the end of his AEW run, the crowd was turning on Jericho, pretty much in the sense of not even from a heel point of view, but in terms of a go-away kind of heat. The chance of please retire, and Jericho tried to lean into it with the Learning Tree faction, and he tried to lean into it with, the Jericho Vortex, which is what people talked about, of Jericho always sidling up to people that were over and popular and on the rise and was a clout vampire and always tried to keep himself relevant, but at the same time, no, he just wasn't really what the AEW fan base wanted to see anymore. So not only is it expected that Jericho could be on his way back to WWE, but at the same time, there's also a feeling of, is it even a massive loss to AEW if that was the case? Has Jericho done everything he can and needs to do in AEW in terms of helping elevate this new promotion, helping carry it on its back in its early days as the first world champion, helping draw eyeballs onto the product, helping give it legitimacy? But now, can AEW stand on its own 2 feet, and is the best thing for Jericho to do to go back to WWE and have that retirement storyline? Well, it looks like it could happen in 2026. Now, before we go on to the next number on this countdown list, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes NordVPN. Yes, you can see right there in the sidebar, you can scan the QR code or use our custom link, and you've got to use it soon because at the time of recording this video, we've got Saturday night's main event coming up next weekend. It's John Cena's WWE retirement show, and with his retirement show comes the possibility of being able to watch it for free on YouTube. Yes, in the United States, you've got to subscribe to Peacock. You've got to be a Peacock subscriber, yet another subscription service that you have to subscribe to. And what if I told you can watch it for free? You can. All you have to do is get a VPN, change your location to over here in the UK, because we don't have Peacock over here in the UK, which means we watch it for free on WWE's YouTube channel. You can too. Get a VPN, change your location to here in the UK, and you can watch Cena's retirement match for free. In addition to that, you can then get all of your WWE content through one Netflix subscription. That's right. You can watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE PLEs, including Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble next year, and WrestleMania and everything else in between. And you can watch NXT PLEs and archive content through one Netflix subscription. Scan the QR code, use our custom link. That's nordvpn.com/WN365. Once again, that's nordvpn.com/WN365. Save yourself some money and support this channel today. Now, let's move on to number 2 on this list, and that is Britt Baker. Yes, the Doctor will see you now, and will we see her in a WWE ring in 2026? Well, Britt Baker is another one of those names where her status is so much up in the air, but it's been like this for such a long time. It is over a year since Britt Baker was last on AEW programming. Of course, she made her return at Forbidden Door in June of 2024, making her return then after a lengthy hiatus of more than 9 months. She interrupted TBS and newly crowned Strong Women's Champion Mercedes Moné, and she revealed on the following episode of Dynamite she was out for a while. Initially, it was 2 herniated discs and a torn hip labrum. Then she suffered a mini stroke that sidelined her for the first half of 2024. He then went on to have this feud with Mercedes Moné, but there was problems, backstage issues, a familiar story in All Elite Wrestling, because in August, just a couple of months after returning, it was reported that she had been suspended by AEW after a legitimate backstage altercation with MJF and his then girlfriend, now wife, Alicia Atout. Now, she did go on to have her match against Mercedes Moné at AEW All In London at Wembley Stadium, but she then disappeared for a little while as these rumours and rumblings of backstage problems persisted. She returned in November on an episode of AEW Dynamite. She defeated Penelope Ford. After the match, she was confronted by Serena Deeb, to which Baker responded by saying, "Nobody cares," repeatedly towards Deeb and the camera. And as of December 2025, at the time recording this video, that's her most recent AEW appearance. That's right, we haven't seen Britt Baker since then. And a lot of people have wondered, are we ever going to see her again? Have there been one too many backstage issues in All Elite Wrestling as Tony Khan decided to move on? Is she ever going to be coming back? And this is someone that WWE would certainly be interested in, given her name recognition, given her in-ring work, giving her promos. You can see her fitting into the WWE style pretty well, and it would be good for Baker's career, maybe just to have a complete change of location and a complete change of environment for her. Now, Tony Khan, again, in this Ariel Helwani interview recently, recently was asked about Britt Baker possibly coming back, and he said something very interesting as regards to her, kind of saying that he does expect her actually to return to AEW. He said, quote, "Britt Baker is somebody that I love and respect, who's also been in AEW from the very beginning." He then explained she has been away at times for health reasons and for she's had some injuries. He said she's so impressive to have somebody that went to medical school, earned their degree, is practiced, and also has wrestled at a high level and juggled all these things. I think it's really impressive. And as somebody who juggles a lot of jobs and a lot of work, I respect Britt's work ethic a lot. She's also a great wrestler. He then confirmed her eventual return while noting her well-being is the top priority. He said, quote, "I'm just looking for the right time with Britt," he said. "I think Britt's a great person in and out of the ring, so I'd love to have Britt back in AEW. And Britt is going to be back. I really believe in AEW, and I hope soon, but it's going to be the right situation for her and everybody involved. And I want to make sure she's 100%, and that's important to me, and I really care about that, the health and well-being of all the wrestlers. And in Britt's case, I think she can come in and still be a huge part of AEW, and I expect she will." So that was pretty confident by Tony Khan, but those are just words, and actions, of course, speak louder. We still have yet to see Britt Baker back. It's been over a year. Now, because of the time she has spent on the sidelines due to injuries, maybe things we don't know about, there could be substantial time added onto her contract. We don't really know the latest when it comes to how long she does have left on her deal. But even if she has a lot of time left on, we have seen situations in the past with the likes of Rey Fenix and others where they've negotiated a release from All Elite Wrestling to go to WWE, and maybe this could be a similar situation for Baker in 2026. Of course, we'll have to see, but I could see a situation where the Doctor ends up in World Wrestling Entertainment. Next up, Private Party. It feels like 2025 has been the year of discussing just what is going on with the former AEW World Tag Team Champions amid rumors of contract expiries, complications with certain contracts ending at different times than the other, backstage appearances, mentoring from AEW stars. It's a really, really, really confusing situation, isn't it, with Private Party as to just what's going on now. In the spring and the summer, there were reports coming out that Private Party's AEW contracts were up relatively soon. That was the report then. Well, it's nearly the end of the year, and they're still technically under contract to AEW, which again is an interesting one to say the very least. According to a recent report in October from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, both Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy remain under contract with AEW. Although this is where it gets confusing because they haven't wrestled for AEW since January of this year, and we're in December now. Last year was a great year for them. They won the AEW World Tag Team Championships, defeating Private Party. That was in October of 2024, and then they dropped the titles in January to the Hurt Syndicate, and we haven't seen them since on AEW TV. In fact, they've only wrestled one match since they lost the tag titles. That wasn't for AEW, that was for HOG, and that was in March of this year, and we haven't heard anything else since then. So it's odd. Now, when it comes to their contracts expiring, well, Fightful did note in their report, which was quite interesting, that both have kind of suddenly bulked up their physiques, which some people had seen on social media. There'd been some pictures floating around of them looking considerably bigger than they did before. Reportedly, the Hurt Syndicate, the tag team that won the tag titles from them, are said to be big fans of the duo, and it says that MVP's group advised Private Party to begin working out more, and they've been very helpful for them. Now, earlier this year, Fightful suggested that WWE had what was described as preliminary interest in the duo. We don't know the latest on their contracts. A recent report did state in November that Mark Quinn, one half of Private Party, was backstage at AEW Full Gear. Once again, if this was a case to talk about contracts or just to see people, we don't know. So it's a very confusing situation, but given the fact we still haven't seen them on AEW television, given the fact that still we don't have really any update on an AEW return, that maybe does suggest that we could have a situation similar to other tag teams in the past that have left AEW, where maybe one person's contract ends before the other, and they're waiting for both of their deals to end up, because this isn't like Penta and Rey Fenix, where they can stand alone as singles talents. Their best act is as a tag team. That's really what WWE, if they were to get them, would be looking for, is Private Party as a team. Now, we know that Mark Quinn did spend a considerable time on the shelf. I think he had a shoulder injury at one point, and Isaiah Cassidy was working singles matches in AEW, so maybe it's a similar case of that, of they're waiting for those contracts to marry up in terms of expiring at the same time. Maybe it's a case of they are going to stay in All Elite Wrestling and they're just bulking up for a big return later in 2026. But given the fact, as I mentioned, we still Haven't seen an AEW return. We still haven't seen them on AEW television. And WWE does hold interest in the former AEW World Tag Team Champions. That could suggest they could be on their way to WWE. Next up, Anna Jay. Now, this is a more recent one, isn't it, when it comes to the possible exit of Anna Jay from AEW, which would lead to a lot of speculation that she could then be on her way to WWE. Now, Anna Jay, this was a report that came out in just the last couple of weeks at the time recording this video, that came courtesy of Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, saying that Anna Jay's contract reportedly is set to expire sometime within the next few months. Now, people in the promotion in AEW did expect AEW officials to make a move to retain her if possible. She really got her most exposure in All Elite Wrestling. But there's no confirmation on contract negotiations between the two parties at this point. And it was said that whilst Anna Jay has enjoyed her recent work with the company, she is also open to exploring free agency options if she thinks it can benefit her career. This is when, again, it does get really interesting because, of course, you do take a couple of looks at Anna Jay. You've seen her improvement in the ring, improvement on the microphone, and you feel like she's absolutely someone that WWE would look to sign and get under contract. Now, I don't think she'd go to the main roster. She'd go to NXT, learn the WWE style, learn what they want, and she still is not green, but she hasn't been in the business for a huge amount of time. I think she made her debut in wrestling in like 2019, something like that. She joined AEW in 2020, so she's still 5-6 years into the business, which is still very, very early in her pro wrestling career. So WWE could have the opportunity there to get someone that does have mainstream experience, but then mold her, develop her in the vision that they're looking for. So if Anna Jay does decide to explore free agency, similar to other talents that have left AEW's women's division and gone over to WWE, for example, Jade Cargill, they could see Anna Jay someone that they can build on, and maybe they could sign her in 2026. But of course, this is dependent on her leaving AEW. She does have a partner, Jack Perry, in All Elite Wrestling. That could be a reason to stay, but we've got plenty of couples where one's in WWE, one's in AEW. That's not a big deal at all. So Anna Jay possibly going to WWE in 2026 certainly is one to watch. And finally, Camille. Now, I know you might say, who? Yes, remember her, Camille. She was in AEW for a hot minute. Still, technically, she's under contract to All Elite Wrestling. Now, this has been a wild story and a wild situation for Camille in AEW, hasn't it? In April of 2024, it was reported that Camille had signed with All Elite Wrestling. This was after she left the NWA. Of course, she was the NWA World Women's Champion for a really long time and had really great success there. And many people thought, right, she's ready for the next step up. And there were reports that she negotiated with both WWE and AEW. At one point, it was thought that she probably was going to go to WWE, but in the end, AEW made her a really good offer, and she ended up becoming All Elite. Then we didn't see her for ages, and people kept questioning, where's Camille? What's going on, Camille? What's the plans with Camille? Eventually, she did debut in AEW in July of 2024 at Blood and Guts. She made her AEW debut. She was a heel. She attacked Britt Baker, same Britt Baker that's also disappeared, and she formed an alliance with the AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné. And it looked like there was going to be this kind of Shawn and Diesel kind of situation. Camille was going to be her bodyguard, and that was what it was going to be. She wrestled a couple of matches for AEW, not loads, but a couple of matches for AEW. And then we started seeing tension. Then we started to see Mercedes Moné grow frustrated very quickly with Camille. She suffered her first loss on October 30th at Friday Night Dynamite. She was defeated by Chris Statlander, which was her first loss, as mentioned, in All Elite Wrestling. And then on November 27th at Thanksgiving Eve Dynamite, just over a year ago now, Camille split from Moné after just a few months together, and after weeks of mistreatment, she turned face in the process, and then she was laid out backstage by a mystery person. We've never seen her since. Since then, since that match on the Fright Night edition of Dynamite in 2024, she's only wrestled 2 matches. Not for AEW, one for ICW in February of this year in Glasgow, Scotland. The other was in July. It was on the 26th of July, 2025 for PWK Ladies Night. That was in Indiana. And apart from that, we haven't seen her. Not at all. And it feels like something must have happened behind the scenes, whether they're not happy with her or it's not worked out. For whatever reason, Camille, her career in AEW looks relatively short, doesn't it? And this does feel like one whereby the expectation would have been she'd have signed a multi-year contract with AEW, so she's got plenty of time left on her deal, but maybe this could be a situation whereby she negotiates a release and ends up in WWE, where she did negotiate before. Maybe it might be a better chance for her there. Of course, she did star as well in the Queen of the Ring biopic about Mildred Burke, and a fairly prominent role in the film. And even then, she didn't appear on AEW television as well. And there was even a situation whereby AEW were even kind of promoting the film, and the director was there at AEW Revolution earlier this year, and still nothing about Camille. So if her starring in a movie that's getting promoted by AEW on their TV can't get Camille to come back, then I'm not sure what will, which could mean that she could be on her way back to WWE, or possibly over to WWE rather, once she can negotiate an exit from All Elite Wrestling in 2026. So there you go, guys. There are 5 possible AEW stars that could be on their way to WWE in 2026. What are your thoughts on the list? Which ones are more likely than others? What are your predictions? Are there some names that I've missed? Let me know your thoughts, your reaction as always in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.